Mayim Bialik has often said that hosting Jeopardy was one of the biggest honors of her career, but something happened behind the scenes that Sony never wanted the public to know. In 2023, she walked off the Jeopardy set believing she was doing the right thing, but executives were furious. Her decision cost her her job and nearly $2 million. For more than a year she stayed silent, trying to protect her reputation, the people she worked with, and the show itself. But by 2025, she felt she could no longer hide what really happened. When she finally told the truth, it showed just how harsh, punishing, and political Hollywood can be, especially when someone challenges power. Her story is not only about a game show but about the way the entertainment industry controls people, rewards obedience, and punishes those who step out of line. Mayim Bialik's story began long before Jeopardy, in a life shaped by family history, culture, and a quiet determination that followed her from childhood into adulthood. She was born on December 12, 1975 in San Diego. Her parents, Beverly and Barry, were trying to build a simple life inspired by their Jewish immigrant past. Their families had come from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary with nothing but hope. They settled in the Bronx, worked whatever jobs they could find, and tried to hold on to their traditions. Barry loved writing stories and tried different small business ideas. Beverly taught drama and took young Mayim to community theater shows before she even understood what acting really was. Those early moments planted a seed, even though no one in the family ever expected fame. When she was a toddler, her family moved to Los Angeles. Even though she grew up in Hollywood's backyard, nothing about her early life felt glamorous. Money was tight, her home was modest, and her parents worked constantly to give her a stable childhood. Yet it was in San Diego, where her life started, that she always felt something important had begun, even if she couldn't explain it as a child. At 12 years old, she stepped into the world of acting. Her first movie role was in Pumpkinhead in 1988. It was small, but it opened a door. What people around her didn't know was that she carried another legacy inside her. Her family was connected to Chaim Naaman Bialik, one of the most important Hebrew poets in history. He was born in 1873 and became a symbol of cultural identity. Mayim said her great-grandfather and the poet were first cousins. That meant the connection was closer than many assumed. She didn't feel pressure from it. Instead, she felt rooted in something old, meaningful, and bigger than Hollywood. That connection helped guide her decisions later, from her interest in neuroscience to how strongly she held on to her values. Growing up in Los Angeles gave her a life shaped by two worlds. At home, her family followed Reform Jewish traditions. They kept kosher, celebrated holidays, and used Yiddish phrases in everyday conversation. At school, she lived in a more secular world where many kids didn't understand her customs. Sometimes she felt torn between two identities, unsure of how to fit into both at the same time. But that mixture taught her that identity can stretch without breaking, and that you can belong to more than one world at once. She went to Hebrew school twice a week, attended youth groups, and helped with synagogue events. After long days filled with rehearsals or family obligations, she still stayed up late finishing her schoolwork. Life was busy, but those routines taught her discipline and balance. At home, being the only girl among three brothers, Brian and David included, was not always easy. Their bond was strong, but the house was loud and chaotic. Being the only sister sometimes made her feel invisible, and from a young age she wondered why people behaved the way they did. This curiosity later shaped her interest in neuroscience and her decision to study the human mind. Her parents struggled financially. Barry's business attempts often failed, and they sometimes couldn't afford to drive her to auditions. Friends and relatives helped when they could. Even when Mayim booked roles, her parents refused to treat her like a celebrity. Acting didn't excuse her from chores or homework. Fame meant nothing inside their home, and that grounded approach taught her gratitude and humility. These early challenges made her cautious with money and helped build resilience long before she ever became famous. Her life changed at age 11 when she played the young version of Bette Midler's character in the movie Beaches. It premiered in December 1988 and became a classic. Mayim auditioned weekly for 4 months, wore a red wig and brown contacts, and listened closely to Bette Midler's guidance. Filming was difficult. The wigs were heavy, makeup was uncomfortable, and the sets were hot. The emotional scenes were intense for a young girl, but the experience made her realize that acting could be meaningful. The film's theme song became a worldwide hit, and although Mayim now laughs at her old performance, she knows Beaches changed everything. Before Beaches, she had already started building her career. In 1987, she appeared in Beauty and the Beast, earning her SAG card early. In 1988, she played a tough orphan on The Facts of Life. She learned how sitcoms worked, how writers shaped characters, and what it meant to perform under pressure. She also appeared in 8 episodes of Webster, where she dealt with bullying from other children on set. At 13, she began therapy to cope, which became her first experience understanding the emotional weight young actors carry. Therapy later inspired her openness about mental health. Pumpkinhead, released in January 1989, was another early step. She played a small role that ended in a frightening death scene. Seeing the special effects and monster costumes up close shocked her. It taught her that she needed to protect her emotional boundaries and choose roles carefully. Feeling overwhelmed by the pressure from agents, she started recording her own audition tapes at home. Her determination paid off. In 1990, one of those tapes earned her a chance to audition for Blossom. She was one of only 7 girls considered. Her homemade tape impressed the producers, and at 14 she became Blossom Russo. The show premiered in 1990 and quickly grew to more than 14 million viewers. Between 1990 and 1995, it filmed 114 episodes and made her a star. But fame came at a cost. While other teens went to school dances and hung out with friends, she spent long days on set, from early morning until late evening. She felt lonely despite being on television every week. Blossom often dealt with heavy themes like divorce and addiction, which mirrored some of the struggles in her own home. Her parents divorced when she was around 15, and she kept her real pain hidden from her castmates. Producers used her and Joey Lawrence's friendship to generate publicity. Paparazzi followed her home in 1992, taking photos of a teenage girl who only wanted privacy. Joey Lawrence has repeatedly said they were never romantically involved, but the rumors helped boost the show's popularity. In 1991, she won the Young Artist Award, yet her pay was much lower than many other child actors. She earned around $15,000 per episode, and she saved most of it instead of spending it. These experiences shaped how she later spoke about fair pay in Hollywood. When Blossom ended in 1995, she faced a new challenge. Casting directors only saw her as Blossom. She turned down more than 20 similar roles because she didn't want to be stuck in the same type of character forever. So at 19, she walked away from acting and enrolled at UCLA, studying neuroscience, Hebrew, and Jewish studies. This shocked fans, but she felt relieved. For the first time, she could live without fame attached to her. She still did small voice acting work to pay bills, including on the show Hey Arnold, but she avoided live-action roles. Her acting break lasted 12 years. In 1999, she briefly returned for a guest role on Step by Step and later regretted it because it delayed her graduation. She had finally felt settled at school, and stepping back into acting disrupted that peace. Life at UCLA became a mix of heavy science courses and creative activities. She joined UCLA Hillel, participated in a Jewish a cappella group, and wrote music for performances. When she wasn't studying brain chemistry or hormones in the lab, she rehearsed songs with friends who didn't treat her like a celebrity. They didn't care about Blossom. They cared about who she was in the classroom, on stage, and in daily life. That environment helped her grow into someone confident, curious, and grounded beyond Hollywood. It was the first time Mayim felt creative and private at the same time, and she held on to that feeling tightly. During those college years, her biggest passion came from her neuroscience work. She became fascinated by oxytocin, the hormone many people call the love molecule, and she wrote early papers about how it affects bonding, emotions, and social behavior. Even though she still had money from Blossom, she refused to use it to pay her tuition. She wanted to earn her degree through her own hard work, not through her past fame. So she waited tables, carried trays, washed dishes, and often came home smelling like kitchen grease, all while spending her nights reading about brain chemistry and writing research papers. Her commitment made her stand out long before she knew she would eventually write an entire PhD based on similar topics. But her path was not smooth. In 1997, she landed on academic probation because of undiagnosed ADHD. She struggled to concentrate, missed deadlines, and fell behind in classes that moved too fast for her. There were days she thought about quitting. Instead, she pushed herself into deeper research about Prader-Willi syndrome, a rare genetic disorder linked to obsessive behaviors and constant hunger. Something about the intensity of the disorder felt familiar to her scattered mind. Studying it helped her understand her own struggles and develop coping strategies. Little by little, she got out of probation, regained her confidence, and learned how frustration, emotion, and brain chemistry were tied together. That lesson stayed with her for the rest of her scientific career. She graduated in 2000 with a bachelor's degree in neuroscience and minors in Hebrew and Jewish studies. She even received offers from Harvard and Yale, but she turned them down because she wanted to stay close to her family in Los Angeles. Some professors warned her that being a former child actor would damage her credibility in a male-dominated field where women were already doubted. But she kept moving forward anyway. 7 years later, she earned her PhD from UCLA. In 2007, she proved that she could be both the girl from Blossom and a real scientist at the same time, something extremely rare in Hollywood. Her PhD journey began in 2000 under Dr. James McCracken, one of the leading experts in child psychiatry. She focused on the hypothalamus, the small but powerful region of the brain that controls hunger, hormones, emotions, and bonding. She studied how oxytocin and vasopressin worked in teenagers with Prader-Willi syndrome and tried to understand why they struggled with extreme food cravings and obsessive thoughts. Her research was presented at major conferences in 2003 and 2005, and her findings were among the first to show that unusual hormone activity could explain behaviors once blamed on parenting. By 2007, her work was considered groundbreaking. The year 2005 became one of the hardest years of her academic life. She paused her studies briefly to appear on Curb Your Enthusiasm, but she went right back to the lab while pregnant with her first child. While many researchers slowed down during pregnancy, Mayim did the opposite. She kept working long days, sometimes 18 hours, and even dissected rat brains during her final trimester. People in the lab were shocked. She pushed through morning sickness, exhaustion, and stress because she didn't want her progress to fall behind. She completed most of her research in 2006 and published early findings under her full name. That year taught her that motherhood and science could exist together, even if people insisted it was impossible. Her full dissertation in 2007 explained everything she had learned. She showed how children with Prader-Willi syndrome, even as young as 2 years old, were affected by disrupted hypothalamic function. She proved that their hunger, bonding struggles, and obsessive thoughts were not character flaws or parenting mistakes but biological issues rooted in oxytocin and vasopressin imbalances. Her work was cited in major medical journals and helped scientists change how they approach treatment. During her PhD, she also worked as a teaching assistant and took small acting roles on the show Seventh Heaven to help pay expenses. But every time she appeared on TV, her lab colleagues teased her and said she was only an actress pretending to be a scientist. The judgment hurt her so deeply that she began publishing early papers under a fake name so reviewers wouldn't be biased. By 2006, she decided to take her real name back, and by then her work spoke louder than any stereotypes. Her experience became an example of what many women in STEM face when people underestimate them because of labels or assumptions. She also faced a terrifying moment in 2003 when she almost miscarried because of research stress and grant rejections. She spent days not knowing if her pregnancy would survive. That fear changed her. She later talked openly about how emotional pressure, motherhood, and scientific work collided in painful ways. Those experiences inspired her future books Beyond the Sling and Girling Up. She wrote about the emotional cost of trying to be everything at once and pushed for more support for working mothers. After years of science and silence, her life changed again in 2010. She had not acted in nearly a decade when she heard about an audition for a show she had never watched. She walked into the room with her PhD on her resume. The casting team wanted someone like a female version of Sheldon Cooper. She watched a short clip of the show and realized she knew people just like him from years in labs. She mimicked his speech pattern naturally and landed the role of Amy Farrah Fowler after speaking just 6 lines. Her first episode aired in May 2010. By season 4 she became a regular, and Amy quickly grew into a fan favorite. Her years of scientific training gave her character authenticity that no one else could bring. Behind the scenes, she still faced emotional challenges. One of the most difficult moments came during a major kissing scene with Jim Parsons. Because she had recently gone through a painful divorce, she struggled with intimacy on camera. Writers and producers rewrote the script more than 15 times to make sure she felt comfortable. The episode finally aired in February 2014 and became a major turning point for the characters Amy and Sheldon. It also showed how deeply the show cared about its cast. By season 10, she was earning $450,000 per episode after negotiating a raise with Melissa Rauch in 2017. The original cast members even took pay cuts to help close the pay gap for both women. She also worked hard to ensure scientific accuracy, correcting mistakes in more than 20 episodes, and sometimes sharing ideas from her own PhD research. She earned 4 Emmy nominations between 2012 and 2015. In 2018, she nearly left the show because of unequal pay issues, but her push for fairness inspired others in Hollywood to speak up. She stayed until the series ended in 2019. In 2013, She was in a car accident so serious she almost lost a finger. She needed multiple surgeries and missed episodes during her recovery. When she returned, she continued consulting with the show's science team to keep Amy's work accurate. Mayim married Michael Stone on August 31, 2003 in Los Angeles. He even converted to Judaism for her. They had a Victorian-themed wedding filled with soft lighting and old-fashioned touches. Their life together took a more unconventional path. They decided to co-sleep with their babies, which stirred gossip long before the children were even born. Then, in October 2005, she gave birth to their first son, Miles, at home without any pain medication. News spread quickly, and critics loudly questioned her choices. She stayed calm and explained her reasons. Their second son, Frederick, was also born at home in 2008. Both children were homeschooled, and Mayim used her neuroscience training to shape their education. Her life stayed in the spotlight because of her choices. When people discovered she raised her sons on a strict vegan diet without processed food or dairy, debates exploded. Some questioned if the diet was too extreme, and tabloids turned every meal into a headline. Her marriage slowly started to suffer under the pressure and constant public judgment. In November 2012, she and Michael divorced after 9 years. They said the decision came from irreconcilable differences, but insiders claimed their different parenting styles played a major role. In 2014, she spoke openly about her vegan lifestyle and released her cookbook Mayim's Vegan Table with over 100 plant-based recipes. It became a commercial success, though it caused occasional tension on set because cast and crew preferred traditional catering. Some admired her choices, others felt she pushed her views too strongly. In 2016, she opened up about her struggles with OCD and ADHD. The diagnosis came after her divorce, and she shared how therapy, routines, and small habits help her manage symptoms while raising her sons. In 2015, she started her blog Grok Nation, writing about faith, parenting, and mental health. Many fans said her honesty encouraged them to get help. Her time on Jeopardy brought more twists. She started hosting in August 2021 after Mike Richards left. She hosted 92 episodes and created her own warm, conversational style. Some viewers enjoyed it, but others said it felt too different from Alex Trebek's tone. Ratings for some specials dropped. Still, in May 2022, Sony made her and Ken Jennings official co-hosts. Everything changed when the writers' strike began in 2023. Mayim refused to cross the picket line and walked off the set. Sony was angry, and Ken stepped in to host. When Sony later offered her other hosting options, she declined because she wanted to continue with the main syndicated version. In December 2023, she announced she had been removed as host. Sony released its own statement an hour later. Rumors spread that her walkout influenced the decision. By August 2024, her name disappeared from Jeopardy's website. She later said she lost nearly $2 million because of her decision and had to focus more on podcasting. In a 2025 interview, she confirmed that her firing was indeed tied to her support for the strike. Even though the experience hurt her deeply, she continued to support labor rights and spoke honestly about how painful the situation had been. Alongside her acting and science career, she also built a writing career. In 2012, she released Beyond the Sling, a parenting book filled with stories, science, and personal experiences. It sold more than 50,000 copies during the first year. Critics argued over her views on home birth and attachment parenting, but the book opened important conversations about motherhood. In 2017, she published Girling Up, a guide for teenage girls about self-image, emotions, and growing up. She followed it with Boying Up in 2018. Schools used both books, and tens of thousands of copies sold. She relaunched her podcast, Mayim's Breakdown, in 2020, mixing psychology, personal stories, and interviews. By 2023, the show passed 10 million downloads. After her Jeopardy exit, she paused production to heal emotionally. In 2022, she gave a TED Talk encouraging girls to enter STEM fields. In 2025, she partnered with PETA to create vegan Passover videos, which sparked more conversations and controversy. That same year, she announced a neuroscience memoir tying together her Hollywood life, trauma, and scientific research, including a disturbing experience she had witnessed on a Woody Allen set in 1994. The announcement created immediate attention and was expected to become one of the most talked-about memoirs of the year. By 2025, her net worth reached nearly $25 million. But success didn't keep problems away. In 2023, the IRS launched an audit on her wellness brand, questioning expenses related to vegan products and homeopathic treatments. The investigation almost cost her a six-figure penalty. She had to sell some assets and rewrite her business contracts to recover. Her connection to UCLA also continued. Since 2010, she visited the campus often to teach neuroscience topics and mentor students. A 2024 UCLA study suggested that female enrollment in the neuroscience program increased by 15%, partly because of her influence through Amy Farrah Fowler. Students said she made science feel human and relatable. In 2024, controversy returned when people revisited comments from her old parenting books. She was accused of supporting delayed vaccination during a measles outbreak. She posted an apology on YouTube, explaining she had delayed vaccines years earlier for personal reasons but did not oppose them. She also shared that she had grown up unvaccinated and survived a measles scare herself. The explanation led to a drop in book sales and the cancellation of several events, but it also opened honest discussions about how personal choices from public figures can influence the world. Throughout every rise and fall, Mayim continued to be someone shaped by both science and storytelling, by strength and vulnerability. Her life remained a mix of controversy, intelligence, emotion, and courage, a reminder that a person can hold many identities at once and still keep moving forward.